Hey, my name's ShawNshawN. I do art on ShawNshawN.co and specials on eBay. Today we're going to movie review Avengers Endgame. So this is the last of 3 Avengers movies, plus the compilation, I think, 21 movies. There's like 3 Thors, there's 3 Iron Man, there's 2 Captain Americas, there's Black Panther. Quite a few characters are introduced on various plotlines. There's 2 Ant-Man movies, so a lot of movies combined to come together in this movie, which makes for kind of a very big challenge to actually make it work and as well keep the timing down. Obviously they went crazy on the time. It's 3 hours, dude, in 1 minute. You really feel this in the beginning especially, and the end of the movie. So the beginning is just a little bit too long. I think they could have cut out maybe 5 minutes there. On the end of the film, yeah, they could have definitely cut 10-15 minutes. They kind of did like a Lord of the Rings approach where you kind of end the movie, but then it's like, oh, what happens afterwards a little bit and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, dude, just put this in the end credits maybe. I don't know if that was per se necessary. Or at least they could have summed it up faster, I think. But yeah, I think from all the fans that have watched several of the movies, they probably would like that long movie ending. I just think it was too long. It's a good story, but I think that's just too long in the editing. Could have got to 2.5 hours maybe. I've only seen recently one movie that was 3 hours that you kind of don't feel it, which was The Missionaries to Go to Japan. It was so brutal. But I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but that's a really interesting film. It's Martin Scorsese. So basically the story is, from the last Avengers movie, half the world's population, or half the galaxy's population was wiped out by Thanos because he got all of the stones, power stones, infinity stones. And then he wished the death of half of the galaxy's population. And then the Avengers are left scratching their head like, dude, half the Avengers are gone. This is horrible. What do we do? And so that was a really great story because it was so surprising that the villain becomes the anti-hero in the way, and the heroes become, the anti-villains. I'm not sure. So this one picks up at the end of that, the crumbs. So first they have to track down Thanos. They don't know how to do that. They've called Captain Marvel from the last movie. She shows up and she's like, oh, I kind of know where he's at. So they pop in on Thanos. And Thor's so pissed off because he's like, I don't have the stones anymore. I destroyed them all. And Thor's like, you son of a... and he just kills him. And so then they fast forward 5 years in advance. So Thor is totally regretting his decision to kill Thanos on the spot because now they have no lead on where the stones were or how to get the stones. And so Thor's become kind of a raging alcoholic, got a big beer belly. So that's kind of interesting. And they have this kind of what happens to people afterwards, how they react to certain events. Iron Man has focused in, got a family, so he's kind of settled down. He's like, yeah, it was terrible, but I have a family, I got to move on. So he's probably the most sanest of the bunch. Hawkeye lost his daughter right before with Thanos, and he wasn't even involved with Avengers at the time. And so he just becomes this really bitter person that's hunting down all the mafia underworld bosses and just slaughtering them. And really a poor version of himself because he lost his daughter. He has lost the will to live peacefully with man. So he's used his superpower to evil. Thanos is just chilling out. He's got this farm. He's supposedly before he's whacked off, right? So they track down, they figure out, we can go back in time. Ant-Man comes out of the trapped universe where he was. Some rat kind of pops him out of there, which doesn't seem likely, but his machine's sitting in storage for 6 months. No one scrapped it for parts. And this rat pushes the button and then Ant-Man appears. It's a very much of a comic book kind of plot, but it's not realistic in the sense I think that stuff would have been scarfed up. So Ant-Man comes up and he's like, what happened? He doesn't know what happened. He's just been lost in this subatomic world. And he comes out and, there's this terrible event. He finds out, everyone's died. And then he's like, oh my God, my daughter died. And he tracks her down and she's like 5 years older. And he's like, wow, you've grown up. He's so shocked because when he was there, it was only 5 hours. So that's where he gets the idea, hey, maybe there's something weird with time at this really subatomic level versus our reality of time. They start trying to build a time machine. Iron Man says, no, I don't want to go, forget it. And so they can't build a really good time machine. So they finally roll in Iron Man to get the time machine, and then they go back and start trying to steal the stones before they're used. And, there's like kind of a plot line where for the Soul Stone to get it, they have to actually kill one each other. So that's, kind of the bitter story repeated from the last story, which is really good. You also have the danger of Thanos, the younger Thanos, who they're hunting now, kind of figured out because he plugs into, I think is it Nebula, the sister of Gamora. And Nebula is kind of this half robotic creature. So they're both in the same time frame. And then she starts having these flashbacks, the younger one. She's like, what is this? And Thanos is like, there's just something weird going on. And plugs her into a machine and figures out, there's this other Nebula running around loose, and that's where he finds out, oh, they're hunting all the stones. I just have to pop in and grab the stones right before. So that's Thanos' plan. Let him collect all the stones and show up and boom, steal all the stones. So, yeah, they kind of have that. I mean, one of my disappointments in the film, I think, was at the end of the last film, Nick Fury in the last seconds before he pages Captain Marvel, who just had a movie come out. So Captain Marvel shows up and she leads them to the planet where Thanos is, but then she just disappears, and you're like, she's supposed to save the world, and she's only like a bit part in the beginning and at the end when they have the final battle. So that's a little bit disappointing from Captain Marvel's standpoint, in that she's like has this super power, and then she just shows up. I got other battles to fight, you know. Which kind of sucks. The same with Black Panther, but he was gone until he gets resurged at the Bastion. So all he can do is fight the last final scene, right? But at least they brought back Black Panther. Hopefully they do another movie of Black Panther. It's such a really cool concept. There's no end credit scene, so I don't know if you need it, because you've just had so many movies. It's like, oh my god, it's so overkill. And they just kind of do the rolling credit with all the people that played all the characters that you grown to love over the years. The only downside I'd say to this movie is because they are superheroes, there's kind of like this lack of character arc in a way, because they're superpower and then they're weakened, but they still have their superpower, so you don't really feel sorry for them. They do have character arc in the sense that Thor goes from this powerful hero to a complete alcoholic. Hawkeye goes from a balanced character to on this raging vengeance streak. The Hulk is the most interesting one, because in the last Avengers, he couldn't figure out how to control the Hulk powers, and so he couldn't even fight in the battle, and that he felt really guilty about that, and he learned how to control the Hulk, so he could be Bruce Banner and the Hulk combined, so he could be a smart Hulk. So that's a really interesting concept. So I mean, the takeaway from the movie, I think, was, you know, what happens between 5 years when you have a real big tragedy like the last Avenger movies, and then how do you react to it. And that's probably the most interesting part about this film. I'm not maybe so much about chasing down the stones and everything, but this kind of character arc between the two, and how, you know, people have shut down, let go of the past, bettered themselves, worsened themselves, felt guilty, and that's my takeaway from the film. I'd say it's a fun ride. Yeah, but again, because they're superheroes, you don't have this connect where it's like, oh, they're superheroes, they got a little weak and they can become superheroes. So the character arc is not that strong, I would say, and there's only so much dialogue there is with the superheroes. I mean, they had a lot of fun. If you watch all the movies, you'll see all these Easter eggs, so to say, to other movies. It's a fun movie, entertaining movie, but I wouldn't say it's that in depth. But it does have this really good kind of family. How do you define family? How do you protect your family? Which family members do you protect? So it has kind of this underlying theme to it, which I think makes it work really well. Obviously, it did this crazy box office of $1.2 billion in the opening weekend. I saw it on Friday. I was going to see it Thursday. I was like, well, I'll wait and see it with my nephew on Friday. And then, you know, I got busy on Saturday, and I got busy again yesterday, so I didn't get around to movie review till today, so it kind of sucks for me. But it gives you more time to kind of process the film, I would say. It's a fun ride. It'll be interesting to see what Marvel develops, but it's at this point it's getting really tired, I would say. You're kind of like the similar plot lines, kind of how PewDiePie said, you know, he's like, these movies are terrible if you think about it. They're really just special effects. And in a way, he's kind of true. It's only special effects. I would say that Marvel's probably done the best at managing the plot lines of the different movies all strung together, similar to a Star Wars effect. And DC Comics just got thrown a really bad curveball. They just didn't have a master genius at the charge of DC Comics really wielding all these Warner, Sony, and all these people doing their brands, and they're kind of slicing and dicing all the characters. None of them fit together for movies. They're fun movies on their own, but if they're going to lead to somewhere where there's some, you know, League of Superpowers or whatever, it's just going to be kind of crap. So I think DC Comics are kind of being shown a disservice in a way. And as well as they've kind of gone through different Superman and different Batman, it's like, oh man, dude, how many more Batman can you have? Like, just do one Batman, you know? And Chris Payne is like, don't do this other guy's terrible. He's not bad, but it's just like Christian Bale is just so much better as Batman. He's a believable Bruce Wayne and is a believable Batman. This new guy, Ben Affleck, he looks kind of like this meaty superhero Batman, but he doesn't like, there's like no way he would be agile enough to play Batman as far as swinging on ropes, and he just doesn't come off as a believable Batman. He might work as a Bruce Wayne, but yeah, he's a weaker version, I would say, of Batman. Christian Bale did the best. I mean, he didn't want to play the plot, so they moved on, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, it's a fun movie. I definitely recommend it. Of course, if you've seen all of the previous ones, you're gonna want to see it to kind of see how it ends up. I've given away a lot of the plot lines, so probably you shouldn't be watching this, but I never watch reviews before I go in. I don't know why people do that, but if you watch it afterward, that makes more sense to me. Then you can agree or disagree, right? Yeah, Anyway, that's my review. Can't really say much about it. Hope you guys like it. Give me a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you in the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.